For millennia, the galactic hegemony has been the law. A council of 12 ancient species, they have brought order to the stars, guiding the young and correcting the unruly. Now, their gaze has fallen upon a small, isolated world teeming with a chaotic, primitive species. A world rich in resources, ripe for harvest. A species ripe for guidance. But what if the primitives they came to pacify were the most successful predators in the galaxy's long history? What if the easy conquest they anticipated was actually an invitation to their own extinction? And what happens when a species that has perfected the art of war is finally given a reason for total, absolute, and ruthless retaliation? This is the story of the day the galaxy fell silent under the cold, watchful gaze of Earth. Before we bear witness to the final judgment, take a moment to subscribe and join the fleet. Your support is the first and last line of our defense. All right, the verdict is in. Let's begin the story. The massive hegemony flagship, Dominion, hung in the darkness above Earth like a metal god, its hull stretching for 10 silent miles. Inside the ship's primary convocation chamber, the leaders of the 12 species of the galactic hegemony sat around a circular table of living, pulsing crystal. In the center of the table, a holographic image of Earth spun slowly. A beautiful, vibrant, and utterly unsuspecting blue-green marble. Brood Commander Kthar of the Chiton Swarm clicked his heavy forearms together, a gesture of polite, predatory attention. His multifaceted bug-like eyes were fixed on the hologram. The third planet shows significant promise, he said, his voice a dry, rasping hiss rendered into flat, universal tones by the translator. Rich in water, carbon, and rare strategic metals. Our surveyors confirmed deposits that could fuel the swarm's expansion for 500 cycles. Matriarch Lyra of the Lumini, a being of translucent skin through which her purple, bioluminescent blood flowed, leaned forward on her 6 elegant legs. We have observed their technology level. It is pathetic. They have barely left their home planet. Simple nuclear fission weapons, basic chemical spacecraft, computers that still rely on silicon. They should submit within a single solar cycle. Juggernaut Boar of the Nar Collective, a hulking being of living, sentient stone, rumbled in agreement, a sound like continents shifting. A single orbital demonstration should suffice. It is the standard approach. The standard approach. Hegemony Pacification Protocol 7 Alpha. It had been used hundreds of times before on hundreds of worlds. A clean, efficient, and time-tested method for bringing primitive species into the galactic order. Void Admiral Vess of the Serpentine Fleet nodded her long, serpentine head. My scouts have identified their 3 largest population centers. High-density urban zones they call New York, London, and Tokyo. A precise, surgical strike on each will sever the head of their primitive global infrastructure. The rest of their species will understand their new position in the galactic order. The vote was a mere formality. It was, as it always was, unanimous. No species had ever been foolish enough to resist the hegemony after a demonstration. Resistance was illogical. Resistance was futile. Resistance was, for a primitive species, unthinkable. The decision to kill millions of sentient beings was made with the same casual, emotionless efficiency as a decision to adjust a starship's climate controls. 3 days later, the hegemony's war fleet, 47 ships strong, took position in Earth's outer atmosphere. Each vessel was a masterpiece of military engineering, capable of cracking the planet's crust if necessary. Their weapons had never been used at full power. No species had ever required such an extreme measure. The first energy beam struck New York City at exactly noon, local time. The beam was not a crude explosive. It was a lance of focused, surgical gravitational distortion. It was precise. It was controlled. It was designed to liquefy structures and infrastructure, but leave the landscape and mineral wealth intact for future mining operations. 8 million human beings were reduced to their constituent atoms in the first 30 seconds. London fell at sunset. The ancient city and its 9 million inhabitants simply ceased to exist, replaced by a perfectly circular, miles-wide crater of glowing, molten glass. The River Thames boiled away into a cloud of steam that rose like a funeral shroud over the ruins. Tokyo burned at midnight. A different weapon this time. A thermal bloom that turned the bustling, vibrant metropolis into a sea of incandescent fire, a funeral pyre so vast it could be seen from orbit. 12 million more humans joined the silent, growing count of the dead. 29 million people. Three of the greatest cities in human history. Erased in less than a day. The hegemony waited. Their translators were primed to receive humanity's terrified plea for mercy. Their occupation forces, carriers filled with kite-in-shock troops, prepared to land and begin the efficient process of resource extraction. Instead, they were met with a profound and deeply unsettling silence. Perhaps their primitive communication systems were damaged in the strikes, suggested Matriarch Lyra, her purple blood flowing with a calm, analytical rhythm. The electromagnetic signals they use may have been disrupted. Brood Commander Kthar was not convinced. The silence felt wrong. It felt watchful. Send another message, he hissed. Broadcast on all frequencies. Make sure they understand what happens to species that resist the hegemony's will. The message went out in every one of the 6,000 languages the hegemony's computers had cataloged from Earth's broadcasts. The demand was simple. The terms were non-negotiable. Surrender within 48 standard hours or face total planetary annihilation. Submit to hegemony authority. Provide the required 70% of all planetary resources as tribute, or watch their entire species burn. The answer came exactly 48 hours later. It did not come through radio signals. It did not come as a white flag. The answer came in the form of 3 thermonuclear missiles that, according to every law of physics the hegemony understood, should not have been there. They appeared on the flagship's sensors only seconds before impact, having somehow bypassed the fleet's multi-layered detection grid. The flagship's powerful shields absorbed the nuclear blasts with ease. The weapons were far too primitive to inflict any real damage. But the message was brutally, suicidally clear. Earth's answer was no. Impossible, whispered Void Admiral Vess, her serpentine body coiling in disbelief. No species has ever rejected our terms after a demonstration. They always surrender. They always submit. Matriarch Lyra's calm facade finally cracked. Her blood began to flow in faster, more agitated patterns. Perhaps we did not make ourselves clear. Perhaps a larger demonstration is required. But Juggernaut Boar was studying the tactical displays, his rocky form rumbling with a new, deep confusion. How did their missiles reach us? Our shields were active. Our point defense systems should have vaporized them. Our long-range sensors should have seen them launch from the planet's surface. The truth was simpler and far more terrifying than any of the hegemony leaders could possibly suspect. Deep beneath the radioactive, glassed-over ruins of the 3 destroyed cities, in hardened, shielded bunkers built decades ago during humanity's own primitive Cold War, the leaders of Earth were not panicking. They were working. In the bunker beneath the smoldering crater of London, High Chancellor Eva Rostova spoke calmly into her secure, quantum-entangled communicator. Phase 1 is complete. They took the bait. They have revealed their fleet's position, their weapon types, and their shield frequencies. All orbital and deep space tracking systems are now locked onto their fleet. From the bunker beneath what was once New York, General Marcus Thorne's grim face appeared on the main holographic display. The nuclear strike was a probe, a test to gauge their shield capabilities and response time. The data is already being analyzed. We have what we need. From the Tokyo bunker, Director Kenji Tanaka of the Global Manufacturing Directorate nodded. All factories on 5 continents have been fully retooled. Military production is at 300% of maximum projected capacity. The new orbital shipyards are launching 1 Retribution-class destroyer every 18 hours. We will have a 1,000-ship fleet within 6 months. The hegemony, in its ancient arrogance, had made a fatal miscalculation. They had assumed that because humanity was new to space, they were new to war. They had mistaken humanity's long, violent history as a sign of primitivity. They had never considered that it was, in fact, a sign of expertise. For 50 years, ever since a small, crashed hegemony probe had been discovered in the New Mexico desert, humanity had known they were not alone. And they had known that first contact would likely not be peaceful. While the hegemony grew complacent in millennia of unchallenged dominance, humanity, in secret, had been preparing for war. They had reverse-engineered every piece of alien technology that had fallen into their hands. They had studied the faint, intercepted signals of alien communications. They had learned. They had adapted. And they had improved. The hegemony had killed 29 million humans. To the aliens, this was a measured, logical act of pacification. To humanity, it was the opening shot in a war that would end only when every single member of the hegemony was extinct. The first sign that something was catastrophically wrong came when the hegemony's automated mining probe in the asteroid belt, a probe that had been gathering data for a century, simply vanished from their network. Equipment failure, Kthar decided after a cursory review. These old systems sometimes develop unexpected problems. But Void Admiral Vess was not convinced. The debris field shows signs of hypervelocity kinetic impact. Something hit it. Impossible, Kthar hissed. There are no weapons platforms in this system capable of such a strike. They were both wrong. High above Earth's North Pole, hidden behind a cloud of sensor-fooling metallic chaff, humanity's first orbital weapons platform, Thor's hammer, waited patiently for its next target. Its magnetic accelerator cannons were, by hegemony standards, simple technology. But humans had built them with one terrifying advantage. They were designed not just to fire projectiles. They were designed, specifically, to kill alien ships. The kinetic rounds were composed of an alloy reverse-engineered from hegemony hull plating, capable of bypassing their armor at specific impact velocities. The second probe died 8 hours later. Then a third. Then an entire scouting squadron of 6 hegemony ships, sent to investigate the disappearances, simply ceased to exist in a brilliant, silent flash of light that temporarily blinded the flagship's sensors. This is not equipment failure, Juggernaut Boar rumbled, his voice carrying undertones of anger and confusion. Something is hunting our ships. Systematically, Matriarch Lyra's purple blood flowed in agitated, panicked patterns. The primitives should not possess such capabilities. Our intelligence showed basic chemical rockets. Intelligence reports can be wrong, Vess replied grimly, especially when dealing with a species that has had 50 years to actively conceal its true capabilities. The third day brought unmitigated disaster. The hegemony's orbital supply depot, a massive station that serviced the entire fleet, exploded in a silent, blossoming chain reaction that consumed 2 nearby destroyers. How? Matriarch Lyra shrieked, her calm finally shattering. The depot was protected by overlapping shield arrays and the best point defense systems in the fleet. The answer came in the form of humanity's newest weapons, a horrifying marriage of primitive cunning and advanced, stolen science. Stealth missiles that could phase shift through hegemony shields for a fraction of a second. Hunter-killer drones disguised as space debris, which only activated when they had drifted inside the defensive perimeter. The true shock came when the hegemony fleet attempted to retreat to a safe distance to regroup. As they pulled back toward the edge of the solar system, they found human ships waiting for them. The first human vessel to decloak was nothing like Earth's primitive, public-facing rockets. It was a sleek, black predator, all sharp angles and menacing, unfamiliar weapon ports. Its hull was coated in a shifting, non-Euclidean material that made it nearly invisible to hegemony sensors. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself. Vess broadcast on all frequencies. The response came in perfect, formal hegemony standard, the diplomatic language used by all 12 member species. This is Wing Commander Anya Sharma of the Earth Defense Force ship TFS Retribution. You have attacked our home world without provocation and murdered millions of our civilians. Surrender now, and you will be granted a quick death. Resist, and you will pray for one. Kthar's mandibles clicked in agitation. Impossible. Their species should not know hegemony standard. They should not possess such vessels. We know many things, Brood Commander. Sharma's voice replied, cold and certain. We know the location of your home worlds. We know the composition of your fleets. We know the names of your children. We have been watching and listening for a very, very long time. The Retribution opened fire. Energy beams, perfectly matching the frequency of hegemony weapons, lanced out. But they were different. They pulsed at exactly the right harmonic resonance to overload hegemony defensive systems. The flagship's shields, which had shrugged off a thermonuclear blast, collapsed in a shower of sparks. How do they know our shield frequencies? Juggernaut Boar demanded. The answer was simple, and it was terrifying. Every piece of alien technology that had ever approached Earth, probes, wreckage, even stray signals, had been captured, analyzed, and ruthlessly reverse-engineered. Earth scientists had built detailed, perfect models of every hegemony ship, every weapon, every shield. But humanity had done more than just copy. They had improved. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and deadlier than anything the hegemony had ever faced. But more importantly, they were crewed by beings who understood something the aliens, in their long, soft peace, had forgotten. The concept of total war. The battle lasted 6 hours. It was a slaughter. When it was over, 32 hegemony ships were drifting, gutted hulks. The rest had been completely vaporized. Not a single human vessel had been scratched. A single, heavily damaged Chiton destroyer was allowed to escape, its FTL drive barely functioning. It carried a final message from Wing Commander Sharma. "Go home." Her voice echoed in the mind of the terrified Chiton captain. "Tell them what you have seen. Tell them that Earth's answer is no. And tell them that the hunt has just begun." The emergency session of the Galactic Hegemony took place on a heavily fortified space station, deep in the core of their territory, 50 light-years from any human activity. The mood was not one of anger. It was one of pure, abject terror. "The Sol System Expeditionary Force has been completely eliminated," Thar reported, his voice a broken, trembling hiss. 47 ships destroyed. One survivor, who delivered their message. They knew. Void Admiral Vess whispered, her serpentine form coiled tightly in distress. "They knew exactly how to counter our shields, our armor, our tactics. They were prepared for us." More disturbing, Matriarch Lyra added, her translucent skin now a pale, sickly lavender, is their complete lack of restraint. They did not take prisoners. They did not disable ships. They annihilated them. This is not the warfare of a civilized species. This is extermination. The truth was even worse than they suspected. At that very moment, human deep space reconnaissance vessels, operating under a level of stealth the hegemony couldn't even detect, were positioned throughout their territory, cataloging every military installation, every supply route, every populated world. The hegemony's response was predictable. Arrogance, even when faced with annihilation, dies hard. They assembled a second, larger fleet. The Grand Armada. Over 200 of their most advanced battleships, their deadliest weapons, commanded by the best admirals of all 12 species. They would crush the human uprising and make an example that would terrorize the galaxy for millennia. The Grand Armada never reached the Sol system. Human deep space interceptor fleets met them at the very edge of hegemony territory. The battle lasted for 3 days and ended with the complete and total annihilation of every single hegemony ship. But this time, the humans broadcast the entire engagement. Every species in the known galaxy, on every planet, on every station, watched as the invincible Grand Armada was systematically, clinically, and emotionlessly dismantled. They watched human vessels move in perfect, terrifying coordination, exploiting weaknesses the hegemony didn't even know they had. They watched hegemony crews beg for a mercy that never came. Most terrifying of all, they heard the human battle communications. There was no anger, no passion, no emotion at all. Target the command VES. Cells, shield generators. Wing Commander Sharma's voice ordered calmly. Use frequency modulation pattern 7 gamma. Disable their communications array first, then their primary weapon systems. Then, sterilize the vessel. Acknowledged. Firing. The alien battleship died in silence, its crew unable to even send a final, screaming message. One by one, every hegemony vessel was destroyed. Human losses remained 0. The broadcast ended with a simple, chilling message that froze the blood of billions of beings across the galaxy. This is Earth Defense Force Admiral Anya Sharma. The Galactic Hegemony has committed acts of unprovoked aggression and mass murder against the people of Earth. Be advised, we do not accept surrender. We do not negotiate with war criminals. We will hunt down every hegemony ship, every hegemony base, and every hegemony world until absolute and total justice has been served. The galaxy fell silent. For the first time in 3,000 years, species across known space began to fear something other than the galactic hegemony. They began to fear humanity. The final phase of the war was not a war at all. It was a genocide, executed with the flawless precision of a mathematical equation. It began with the plagues. On Nari Prime, the homeworld of the Lumini, matriarch Lyra was conducting a ritual of peace when her aid collapsed, her purple blood turning black as it flowed from every pore in her translucent skin. Within hours, a hemorrhagic fever, engineered to attack the Lumini's unique cellular structure, was sweeping through the capital city. Nothing else was affected, just the Lumini. On the Chitin homeworld, a neural parasite drove the insectoid population to self-destructive madness. On the Nar homeworld, Juggernaut Boar's silicon-based biology was dissolved by an acid-producing nanite plague that turned his people to dust. 12 species, 12 plagues, each one perfectly, flawlessly, and mercilessly designed for its target. Dr. Eris Thorne, the man whose namesake daughter had been one of the first casualties of the war, appeared on all hegemony channels. His face was calm, professional, like a university lecturer. For 50 years, he explained, we have collected biological samples from every alien probe, every piece of wreckage that entered our system. We built detailed genetic maps of all 12 of your species decades ago. You provided us with the weapons to destroy you. We thank you for your contribution to our research. While the plagues raged, the human industrial fleets arrived. Planet cracker ships, weapons the hegemony had only theorized. The first demonstration was at a Chitin industrial world. The human ship, World Breaker, fired an invisible beam at the planet's core. The world split in half, exposing its molten interior to the vacuum of space. 3 billion beings died in seconds. The human captain's response to the planet's dying governor was broadcast for all to hear. Your hegemony destroyed 3 human cities without warning. Your people are receiving the same mercy you showed ours. Then came the psychological warfare. The sacred songs of the Serpentine were twisted into frequencies that caused physical pain. The holy mountains of the Nar were converted to sand by nanites. The burial rituals of the Lumini, essential for their soul's passage to the afterlife, were denied. Human ships broadcast live footage of mass cremations, their ashes scattered into the cold, empty void. The last living member of the Hegemony Council, a crystalline science leader named Quintal, managed one final, desperate transmission. Please, we surrender. We will pay any tribute. We acknowledge your dominance. High Chancellor Eva Rostova's response was immediate and final. You destroyed our cities. You killed our people. You declared war on humanity. There is no surrender in total war. There is no negotiation with war criminals. There is only justice. What justice? Quintal pleaded, her crystalline form cracking and dimming. Extinction, Rostova replied simply. Complete. Total. Absolute. Your species will be remembered only as an example of what happens to those who threaten Earth. The last hegemony member died on a Tuesday. Humanity had kept precise records. 12 species. 437 billion individuals. Eliminated with mathematical precision over the course of 11 months and 6 days. Not a single human life had been lost in combat. The most successful and most terrifying military campaign in galactic history was over. The final act was perhaps the most chilling. On each of the 12 dead home worlds, massive, beautiful monuments were constructed. They were not monuments to victory. They were museums. Detailed, exhaustive museums documenting the history, the culture, the achievements, and the final, fatal crime of the extinct species. The central display in each museum showed the faces of the 29 million humans who had died in New York, London, and Tokyo. The message was simple and clear. This species supported a government that committed unprovoked acts of war against humanity. This is the result. Then came the warning beacons. Thousands of them, deployed throughout the now-empty hegemony space, broadcasting a single, repeating message from Admiral Anya Sharma. This is a message from the people of Earth. The galactic hegemony no longer exists. We did not seek this war. They chose to interpret our peaceful isolation as weakness. They chose to murder our civilians. They chose incorrectly. Let this serve as a lesson. Earth remembers. Earth does not forgive. We have returned to our peaceful isolation, but we remain watchful. We desire only to be left alone. Do not approach our solar system. Do not send probes. Do not send messages. Do not make the hegemony's mistake. We have shown you what happens to those who threaten Earth. Learn from it. Remember it. Share this knowledge. Leave us alone. The message repeated endlessly. The galaxy listened, and it learned. Trade routes were rerouted. Exploration fleets turned back. A new, vast quarantine zone appeared on every star chart. A forbidden territory labeled simply humanity. The hegemony had ruled for 3 millennia. Humanity had erased them in 11 months. They had sought to teach a young species its place in the universe. They had succeeded. Humanity's place was that of the final and only judge. The silent, watchful predator at the heart of a new and very, very quiet galaxy.